Dallas sports radio legend Mike Rhyner shares his iconic Dallas story. I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, we have Mike Rhyner, a.k.a. the Old Gray Wolf. A Dallas legend in sports radio, Mike's influence helped define the voice of Dallas sports for decades. From his roots in Oak Cliff to pioneering the legendary ticket, his journey is packed with stories of passion, perseverance, and a deep love for Dallas. Join us on a candid conversation about his incredible career, the evolution of Dallas sports, and the legacy he's built in the city he calls home. Here it is. The Dallas Famous Podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. Here we are at the Dallas Famous Podcast, deep in Elm Community Center. We've got Mike Rhyner, the Old Gray Wolf, sitting with us. Thank you so much for coming down today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I am not from Dallas, which I've mentioned a lot. And so my first time seeing you was on stage as Bob Dylan with Forgotten Space. And
oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. And so I remember seeing you at the Lakewood Landing, and I was like, hey, aren't you that Bob Dylan guy? And you're like, yeah, I am. And so I was like, oh, later I figured out that you're a lot more than just that.
I hope I wasn't a jerk or anything.
No, you were actually really nice.
Okay.
That's why it didn't occur to me that you had any, like, oh, this is a guy that's retired and does Bob Dylan songs, you know. I didn't know. But anyway, yeah. You're Dallas famous for sure. You're probably a little bit beyond that, I would say. But you're from Oak Cliff, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Grew up there and stayed there for the entirety of my adolescence and on into adulthood.
Okay.
Very familiar with Oak Cliff.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. So I guess you started as a drummer, is that right?
Yeah, when I was a kid. This is the time of the Beatles and the British invasion and all that. Rock and roll was bursting onto the scene in a way that it hadn't before or since. And I needed something to make me cool because I was decidedly not cool, and I wanted to be cool very, very badly.
Okay.
And I had a little bit of a rhythm and could feel the beat when I listened to the Beatles songs and everything, and I thought, well, maybe I can do that. So I started doing it. And I made my way through this world doing that for a good while.
Yeah.
In my 20s.
You were doing like gigs around town?
Yeah.
Do you tour around the area or just kind of local? Or
there were a couple bands I was with that went on the road in foreign ports. You know, one traveled pretty extensively. In fact, one never played here at all. We just would play on the road. But for the most part, yeah, just around here.
Interesting. And so is that what you thought you were going to do at one point? Like just be a drummer the rest of your life? Or?
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I quickly came to not quickly, but after a point, I came to see that the market for that sort of thing was very limited and diminishing more all the time with the advent of disco and whatnot.
Oh, interesting. That was like pushing out like they would have like DJs instead of bands?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and so, I mean, did you go to school? You went to UTA, is that right?
Yeah.
And so, were you still drumming at that point?
I was.
Okay, but then you didn't go to school for drumming. You figured.
No. I went to the. I enrolled in the radio TV scene out there, which was very, very primitive out there at that time. UTA was. I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was pretty slow to get with the program. And if I would have had any sense, I would have gone to North Texas, and done it up there like so many of my future colleagues did.
Yeah. Well, what made you go into that? Like, if you're playing drums, why did you? Was there like something about radio specifically?
I was a radio kid when I was growing up. All my friends were watching My Mother the Car or something on TV. I was back in my room with my transistor radio listening to Russ Knight, the Weird Beard. And it seemed like every night he would be talking to everybody. And it seemed like everybody was listening to it. And I thought, man, that's cool. It'd be so cool to do something like that. Now, later on, I would find out that no, not everybody was listening to him. It was a certain segment of the population, and there were areas of town where you couldn't pick up the mighty 1190 KLIF at all. So there were some areas of town that were completely oblivious to all of that. But still, let me believe what I want to believe. And what I wanted to believe was that everybody was listening to him.
Right. And so I guess that was when you're like, what am I going to do with my life besides drums? That was your thought. Okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit older back then, though. And I figured if I was going to do this, I was going to have to find a way to play catch up real fast. And so I enrolled in UTA. I was considerably older than most of the people in there, but that was my first big move toward radio.
Okay. And I guess at the same time, sports was a thing, or did that come later? Or?
No, that was a lifetime thing.
Okay, yeah.
The first sport I was into was baseball, and I used to go to minor league baseball games at Burnett Field in Oak Cliff. And then in 1960, pro football arrived here.
Okay.
And we had not one, but two teams to pick from. An NFL team, the Dallas Cowboys, and an AFL team, the Dallas Texans, whom you know today as the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
And my dad admired the entrepreneurial spirit of Lamar Hunt, because Lamar Hunt, the owner of the Texans, and later on the Chiefs, his family still owns it. He founded the AFL because he had been trying to get an NFL team to Dallas. You know, he wanted to do an expansion team. They weren't interested in that. He wanted to buy a team and move it here. There were many rumors of the Chicago Cardinals about to come here. But none of that ever came about for him, so he rounded up about 6 or 7 other young millionaires like himself who were playing with family money and started his own league. And my dad admired that, so he threw his support behind the Dallas Texans.
Okay, and so then you in turn as well.
Yes. I wound up a card-carrying member of the Dallas Texans Huddle Club.
Oh, nice. Okay. I mean, and so was there a point before you were at school that you were like, I want to do radio and sports, or was the music, like, what, was there a moment where that kind of came together?
Yeah, that was later on. As I was starting to get into radio, I decided that I wanted to do sports. Even though that was kind of a very, very limited scene at that time. But that was what I had my eye on. Okay. That was what I wanted to do. And one way or the other, by hook or crook, I was going to do that.
Right. What was the first radio gig you had?
The first radio gig I had was as a news intern at KZEW, the Zoo, 98 FM. That was a rock and roll station.
Okay. Were you on the air, or the first you were just running around?
No. At the first time, I was a puppy dog. I wanted to be nowhere in this world more than I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there anytime I could, and I was willing to do anything for anybody at any hour, day or night.
That's a good way to get in grace with the plays.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Well, how long?
And it worked.
I mean, so is there like a story where somebody was sick and you went on the air? Like, what was the first on-air moment?
The first on-air moment I got was when they brought in a real morning show. And the morning show consisted of John LaBella and John Rohde, the LaBella and Rohde show. And they'd been doing this for a while. They'd been at it for a while, and I'd been just doing programming stuff, just whatever kind of shit work the program director didn't want to do himself. He would funnel it down to me, and I would gladly do it.
Right.
But they decided, LaBella and Rohde decided that they needed a producer. And they tabbed me for this, despite the fact that I had no experience. Not only did I have any experience doing that, I didn't have any idea of what a producer did. And what I would find out was that what a producer did was whatever the hosts wanted him to do that they didn't want to do for themselves.
Right.
And my first really big niche that I found, I was just kind of fumbling around trying to find a way to make myself invaluable, you know? Mm-hmm. And the first really big niche I found was writing news stories for John Rohde. Because he was the kind of guy who could just take a story and just wing it. He was just amazing. To this day, one of the most amazing guys that I've ever run across. And I found a way to get inside his head a little bit and come up with stories that I thought he would be interested in and write them kind of as much as I could in the way that he would speak, you know? And a lot of the time I would make it to where when he came in for his first newscast, such as that was, at 6:20 in the morning, I would have, 6, 7 stories sitting there on the desk waiting for him to go through. And most of the time, he would just pick it up, start reading it, and read it completely as was.
Huh.
And that was how I first, displayed any kind of value for somebody, I guess,
Gotcha.
for lack of a better word.
Gotcha. It's interesting. So he was reading it pretty much word for word. So I guess do you like developed your style as you worked with him further? Is that kind of how that went?
Yeah, pretty much it was, because I kind of idolized the guy, and I wanted to get into his head, which is impossible to do.
Right.
And I wanted to, I thought my way up there would be to be as much like him as I possibly could.
Gotcha. I'm curious. So, like, you go to school for this. How much of that actually helped you in the everyday job?
Very little.
Yeah.
Very, very little.
Right.
And that's no knock on the UTA radio TV department. They did the very best they could. But they just really didn't teach us anything terribly practical. If we were wanting to go into the engineering side of it, might have been a little bit different, but as far as practical usage, not much.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds familiar. I went to community college for a little bit too. Okay. So that you're doing the news stories for them, and then when did you actually start getting on the mic?
1 year, football season was rolling around, and the Cowboys were a big deal. And LaBella and Rohde came to realize we need to do something with the Cowboys, but they both hated sports. And they said, what would you think about doing something? Like go in there for maybe 30 seconds and talk about the Cowboys. And I said, sure, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I kind of became the sports guy. The next thing I knew, I was doing it for, I was doing it 3 times over the 4-hour course of the show. And they gave me a little bit more time, not much. I had a couple minutes or so, but I was able to not only do the Cowboys, but cover other stuff as well. And I learned how to write sportscasts and find my voice and everything doing that. And that's kind of how all that started.
Were these the same sort of thing where you would write the copy and would read it, or would you kind of riff it a little bit?
Both.
Yeah.
for the most part. I wrote I read just like I wrote,
Okay.
and I wrote just like I spoke. I mean, even today, people read something that I write, and they tell me all the time, I can hear your voice in that.
Huh.
I can hear you talking, saying
Interesting.
this.
I mean, I'm jumping way ahead, but like over the course of your career, like how much is it like reading copy versus riffing?
Well, once I got into talk radio, you do nothing but riff there.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And there was almost nothing written there. The only thing that was written there that I would read was live spots,
Okay.
commercials and stuff like that.
Sure.
And sometimes if there were like announcements or something like that, liners or such, those would be written, and I would read those. But once that was over with, it was okay. Where are we going here?
Right. Wow. Yeah. Kind of like now.
Yeah.
So when did you kind of like move into like being like the all sports guy? Like, did you were the go-to for that station, or did you move on from there?
Yeah. I had a couple of other hitches at various radio stations at WBAP for a while, and a brief stint at KZPS. And then in, I guess, 1991 or 1992, my then wife ran into a woman somewhere. They became friends because she was friends with everybody. And the next thing I know, she's saying, "Hey, they want us to come over to their house. I think their husband used to be in radio." And I thought, okay, sure, why not? So we go over there, and I started talking to him, and he had some kind of cloudy, nebulous background in radio, which I never fully understood. But his dad bought and sold radio stations. And the guy was Jeffrey Dunbar, who was one of the two other guys that we started the ticket with.
Okay.
And that was the very root of the ticket. The first time that anything tangible would go down on a legal pad that would one day turn into the ticket was when we were together. We were talking, except I was talking and he was writing stuff down. And by then, he'd found another guy who had a little money and wanted to play sports radio. Thought that would be fun. And off we went.
Yeah, at that point, it wasn't like a lot of sports-only networks, I'm guessing, right? It was kind of a new thing.
It was a new thing, but by that time, Dallas was one of the few markets of size that did not have it.
Right.
Like sometimes I would go on vacation with my wife and then young daughter. We would go to places like Boston or Seattle or somewhere like that just to knock around, see the city.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these places had sports radio.
Yeah.
And I must have been a little bit of a drag to be on vacation for them, because all I wanted to do was drive around and listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the early 90s, I was in LA, so I had a choice of like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
the early 90s is when we're talking about here.
Right.
But we still didn't have it here.
That's one of the things I love about Dallas. It feels like it's a little slower with some of the stuff. So like other people have the blueprint, and then you can kind of like run with it here and make it your own. And that sounds exactly like you did with the ticket.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it went.
Yeah. So how long did it take for the ticket to like become an actual thing, and then how long did it take to catch on?
To become an actual thing beyond that legal pad, boy, I sure wish I still had that sheet of legal paper, because
Yeah.
that was the first tangible thing that would turn into the ticket one day. It probably took us about 2 years to just talk amongst ourselves and try to figure out what we wanted this to be like. Then it fell to me to go out and round up guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably took, I don't know, once I started down that path, it probably took 2 or 3 months before I had, guys all squared away and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did was go to underlings at other stations and pilfer them.
Right. Yeah.
Guys that I thought could turn into something, and most of them did.
And so it was like 24/7, like when it started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How
All
long,
sports all the time.
how long were you actually on the air for that?
4 hours a day.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody that I know that's into sports is like, oh, yeah, that's all we listen to. So apparently it went well quickly,
It had its fits and starts, and it didn't happen overnight. I was told by everybody as I was getting into it, what we were going to do.
Mm.
Well, first of all, we kept it secret. I mean, I went out and rounded up all the guys with the caveat, you can't tell anybody about this.
Right.
You can tell your wife, you can tell those closest to you, but you can't tell anybody else.
Yep.
Because, number one, nobody thought it would work. I mean, I went around to everybody I knew just in casual conversation and thought and said to them, why don't you think we have sports radio around here? And they just went, it'd never work here.
Why?
I said, that was my question.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you think it would never work? He said, because they would say, because you've got too much competition. You got WBAP, you got KRLD. That's too much. I mean, no sports station can come in here and beat them.
Huh.
And I thought, well, okay, I guess.
That
But nobody ever gave me a tangible reason that I could really get my head around why it wouldn't work.
right.
So I kept on going. I kept on rounding up guys, talking them into doing this because this, I mean, it was a no-lose proposition for them.
Yeah.
This was the only chance they were going to get to do something like this,
Right.
ever.
Right.
And most of them were smart enough to take that chance.
What was the Dallas sports scene like at that time? Was it thriving? Was there a lot? I mean, I know the Cowboys were actually, now I think about the Cowboys, were huge at that point, but like, what about the other teams? Was it kind of just all Cowboys or what was going on?
Well, the Rangers were the Rangers. The Rangers didn't win a whole lot in their early days. They were kind of an outlier out there in Arlington, but it was Major League Baseball. And, did okay. The Mavericks were an expansion team back then, and the Stars had not arrived yet. So the sports scene was just really starting to develop and play out the way it did. But the Cowboys just ruled it,
Right. I guess that was enough to kind of be the flagship almost.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. But I don't know. We tried to pay attention to all of them, and we had guys who were to a greater or lesser degree into all of them. Like our show, the Hardline, was the baseball show.
Mm-hmm.
The Musers were more into basketball, and we were all into the Cowboys.
Right. College stuff at all, or
Some,
yeah,
a little bit, not a whole lot, but some.
Yeah. I lived in Austin briefly, and oh my God. There'd be like a sports station and they'd be talking about the third string, like cornerback, like that might, I couldn't believe what the minutia they went into with just that. But I guess in Austin, there's no major team. So
no, well, I mean, the Horns are pretty major themselves, but the way we got around that is I had guys who were really, really funny and really, really talented and really, good at talking about other things, just run-of-the-mill, day-to-day things that they ran into in the course of their time on the planet.
Sure.
And in slow sports times, we would always, get off into that.
Right.
And people loved it.
Yeah.
Now, our bosses didn't like it too much because they would go around and all their friends would come up to them and say, well, I don't know, I tried to listen to it the other day and they weren't even talking sports.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was in, let's just say I was involved in some rather interesting discussions along those lines along the way.
I guess so. Okay, so how long did it take to get really to this point where like you're like, we are happening, like this is a big deal?
Well, at radio then as now, it all depends on what your ratings are.
Mm-hmm.
And now they take ratings every month. So you always have some idea where you are.
Sure.
Back then you got them 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
And whatever they were, you were going to have to live with them for a little while. And our ratings were slow at the start. And I had to fight some very interesting fights to keep the thing going.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And keep us going the way we were. And I had to keep a lot of things from the rest of the guys. I had to go in there and tell them, oh, man, things are great. They love what we're doing, when in fact they did not.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But I had to keep all that from them.
Huh.
And that was not fun. And I knew I knew I was running out of shit here. You know, I knew that sooner or later I was going to come to a point of inflection where something was going to give, you know?
Right.
And the only way this could be avoided is if we started showing some real legitimate ratings progress. And I remember probably about maybe a year in, our ratings came out and they were huge. Everything that I was being led to believe by what people were saying about us came to pass. And it turned into something tangible.
Was that a surprise, or did you feel
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, it was. I mean, I really didn't even think about something like that happening. You know, all I could see was the day-to-day. All I could see was calming guys down and making people think that things were cool, even though I knew they weren't.
Right.
But like I say, as I would make my way through town, people would come up to me, and because, you know, there were some people that knew me from my previous posts and everything, but they would come up to me and tell me that they loved what we were doing, and they listened all the time. And I would just come away from, there was enough of it, and they were committed enough to it, to where I would come away from that thinking, sooner or later, this has got to turn into something tangible. And that was real. That hope, that thought, that belief was kind of what kept me going through that time.
Yeah.
And then one day those ratings came out, and there it was.
Huh. Wow. Did the local teams, were they like friendly? Were they helpful? Were they combative? Like, how did that go?
They pretty much ignored us. You know, if we wanted something, we could usually get it, and we would get credentialed for the games and stuff like that. But as far as going out of their way to help us, they didn't.
Huh.
I mean, we were not the flagship station for any of them, and they had to attend to them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Before they did us.
That makes sense.
But once ratings started coming in, once we started showing what we would indeed later show, all that changed too.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it never went to where you would broadcast games, though. That wasn't the vibe at all.
Oh, well, no, but we did carry the Cowboys for a while.
Oh, okay.
For a year or two, we carried the Cowboys. And that gave us a little bit more access.
Sure.
Than the others got.
Was there like any like interview, like Jim Rome had that interview with I forget, with Lloyd, and it kind of put him on the map. Was there any like moments that kind of blew up or were amazing, like interviews specifically?
Well, we had Jerry on every week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, I don't remember any real specific thing that happened during his time there, but, if you got Jerry on every week, that's big.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And that's when the Cowboys were doing pretty well. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's watching that for sure. And then how long did that kind of go before it started to take a turn? Like, because it's done now, right? The tickets, is it still going? Oh, it's still going.
Oh yeah,
okay.
It's still going.
When did you take off from that all?
I left in 2019.
Okay. Were you retiring, or were you just done with it, or?
It could have been. It was definitely the latter. That I was done with it. Mm-hmm. Retiring, that's what I thought. But I don't know. I really didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was I wasn't doing that anymore.
Yeah, it was just you had to run with it.
Yeah.
But your Texas Radio Hall of Fame, that's cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean, how did that go?
Well, the way it went was I went down to Galveston and was inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. I believe the year of that was 2011. Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
And I went down to Galveston, and there were about 12 other guys that were inducted, and I did not know a single one of them.
Huh.
I was the only guy from the Dallas market inducted in that class, and I have a picture on the wall of that Texas Radio Hall of Fame class, and I cannot give you the name of a single one of those other guys.
That's really funny.
They're all from Houston, San Antonio, Corpus Christi.
Right.
But none were from the Dallas market, just me.
That makes me wonder, like, if you went out of Dallas, did people know who you were? Was it really a Dallas-centric kind of, like, thing?
It was very Dallas-centric.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Dallas famous. That's what we're here.
Yeah, Dallas famous. If you want Dallas famous, you got Dallas famous.
Yeah. Well, so then what made you think about coming back, I guess 2022 and joining the Freak? What was that motivation?
It was ill-fated. But the reason I did it, or the thing that drove me to do it, was I just wanted to see what radio was like, or what sports radio was like somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I found out.
Yeah, not a fan, I guess.
It was not pretty.
Yeah. Well, and so now you're doing your Dark Companion podcast. What spawned that? How did that come about?
I don't know. I guess I just can't sit still.
Yeah.
I guess I just got a perpetual case of ants in my pants, even though there was a period of about 2 or 3 years where I was completely, totally retired. I mean, I got up every day not knowing what I was going to do or could do whatever I wanted to do, Mm-hmm. And I thought at first that would make me crazy because I have a certain amount of type A in me, and it didn't. I mean, I handled it just fine. Mm-hmm. But that came up, and it sounded like fun, and I knew all the guys and everything, so I went off and did that.
Is that like more of a sports podcast, or is that kind of anything goes?
It was pretty much anything goes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I was talking about the Freak there, though. That's why I did that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I knew all the guys, it sounded like fun.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. So, I mean, you're having fun. It's keeping you active, but like, what are you trying to get out of Dark Companion? Like, is it just to like, hey, have fun, or is there more to it?
It's a fun thing just to keep me, I don't know, somewhat involved in something, Mm-hmm. Just to keep me active, keep me as sharp as I can be, mm-hmm. such as that is at this age, and at this stage of the game.
Yeah, but you get to you're like going to the Rangers. You're still involved with like big big-time Dallas stuff, it seems like.
Well, not like I used to be. I mean, I'm not credentialed for the Rangers or for anybody else,
That's
any of the other
interesting.
teams.
I would have think that they'd still want to have. Well, I don't know.
Well,
actually.
I probably, I don't know. Maybe that's something I'll undertake.
Yeah.
To see if I can get credentialed by them.
Yeah. What do you? Let's go back to like, what do you think of the Dallas sports scene these days? Like, what's your take on it compared to when you started over there at Ticket?
Now it's really blown up. It is as legitimate and as big as anything outside of New York or Los Angeles or Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It can hang with any of the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really neat that we now have championships in all four sports. We have all four major sports here, and we've won championships, and we have championships in all of them.
Right.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I guess when you started, it was a lot of just startup teams. I mean, like you said, like some of the I mean, you were here when the Rangers came.
I was here when the Rangers moved here. I was here when the expansion Mavericks started up, and here when the Stars moved here as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And for that matter, I was here when the Cowboys started as well,
right.
too,
Right. Huh. Wild.
So I've pretty much seen it all.
Yeah. I mean, did you get to go to some of the championship games?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. Went to several of the World Series games with the Rangers. A lot of Mavericks playoff games and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is there a big difference in the way you handled the radio versus the way you do the podcast? Is there a big, like, is it similar? Is there like differences?
This is more of the podcast is more of an extended conversation type thing, Like on the radio, if you have those guys on the radio, you got them for 5 or 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
If we had them for 15 or 20 minutes, which sometimes we would, that was a lot for the radio,
Mm-hmm.
And there were probably 1 or 2 times where somebody would agree to do a whole hour with us. But like I say, that was a lot back then.
Yeah.
Now I go into this knowing that it's going to be a lot, and I'm ready for it. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Like I have all my questions, and I'm like, okay, those questions ran out 20 minutes ago. I'm just going to keep trying to figure it out. You have to just kind of roll with it, I guess. Let's finish on where we started with the music. Like, are you still doing any of the Bob Dylan? Are you doing any other live music?
Yeah, playing Petty Theft.
Oh, that's right.
That's the Tom Petty cover band.
Uh-huh.
And I still do that.
That'd be fun if you had Chris Holt come and join you for that, because he's playing with Mike and the Mechanics now, But you're gigging like regularly with that?
As a matter of fact, Chris Holt does play with us from time to time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's an amazing cat.
Yeah, he's great. We had him on last season. I used ChatGPT, and I had the wrong Chris Holt for about half the interview, so I stopped doing that. But anyway, Mike, it's been fantastic having you. Is there anything you want to say? You want to plug the show? Anything for the final words here?
Well, I hope people will peruse Your Dark Companion from time to time. It's out there on Patreon, and as they say, which is now becoming a cliche almost because there's so many of them, wherever you get your podcasts.
Nice.
Be that Spotify, be that Apple, be that iTunes, any others? iHeart.
Yep.
Wherever.
Gotcha.
We try to be on as much out there as we possibly can, and we try to have as many interesting cats in there as we possibly can and just talk to them.
Right on.
Find out what's going on with them. Find out what they're about.
How often does it come out?
Twice a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we do at least 2 a week, sometimes more.
Okay.
Rarely less, but
yeah. Wow.
But we do a couple a
You're
week.
pumping it out. That's good.
Trying to.
Yeah. Well,
How many episodes have we done? I think 144
Wow.
in the course of 2 years.
Took me 4 seasons to get to 100.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I figured like 100 is, if you can do that, you're not messing around. But Mike, thanks so much for taking time, and I look forward to Dark Companion and seeing some of the bands live, and we'll catch you out there in Dallas.
I'm around. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. I'd like to thank Mike Rhyner for being our guest. You can find his podcast, My Dark Companion, wherever you listen. Thank you to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record here. Theme song, Unstoppable by Celine Nirala, and the outro is The Place to Be by Electric Ants. Thanks again to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for their support. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast, and we'll see you next week.